I do know, in fact, all the eyes are on my talk and all, because all are going to, all are hungry to go for a lunch and all, and we are actually, I think, off the time by about 7 minutes. Actually, I'll be quick in bringing you into. I have heard about the other, previous speakers have been speaking about the Antarctic continent at large, and we will, come out of the continent and harp on the ocean around the Antarctic. As you all know, in fact, slide please. As you know that Antarctic represents about 10% of the world's oceans and all. It is not by single dominant national power. Antarctic has got a special a guided policy. It has been explained, as such explained by others and all. And we have got actually multilateral agreements in this part of the ocean and all. That's the International Whaling Commission, and we have got a convention for the conservation of the Antarctic seals, that was 72, and then actually except for these two and all, and then the activities of the CCAMLR. Even now, the actually fin fisheries have not been has not been actually regulated. However, we will have a close look at it and what exactly actually CCAMLR is doing, and how is it, how stable is the system, and how it is going to help India at large and all. In fact, India has been a signatory actually almost right from the time that actually CCAMLR has been established, and India is one of the few countries which are not doing any fishing activity at all in the region and all. And however, you all must have seen there is actually, I think in this government and all, in early 17, we had a Gazette notification in which it is said that the krill fishing activities it should be promoted and all that, and as well as as such, Agriculture and Fishery Ministry is encouraging that our fishermen should go into this part of the global ocean to see that how well we can fit into this the so-called as a krill fishery resources. Krill is in fact actually it could be an alternative for us as well as you know that the India is going to have by 2030, actually India will have an youngest population, and will be protein demand is going to be extremely high, and krill is identified as one of the protein supplements and all, with a huge resources available. And actually, as such, when you go back into the actual convention, actually, first time in the history, in fact, the rational use, the actual term rational use was brought in, and all this, even that has been brought in even in the Vienna Convention, and subsequently this actual rational use has been brought to an extent that how effectively this phrase can be brought into a practice. In fact, that practice is still we are in terms of whether or not the rational use, or we have found a kind of a substitute when you don't know that really we have really accomplished that so-called as a rational use. Then we have brought something called as a sustainable use. However, I think claims by the various states here, and then as you know that I think many of you are familiar with this slide in which this actually CCAMLR area has been identified very clearly, and under this we have a structure of CCAMLR. You all know that there is an effective scientific committee, and there also an effective standing committee on implementation and compliance. I happen to be there in CCAMLR this time. In fact, a small example I would like to state is that actually, as far as SaGHAA is concerned, when actually the chair from actually South Korea, when she declared about some non-compliance issues by actually Chinese vessel, there was so much of an opposition. Chinese said, no, you cannot write it. They didn't even want it on the record that they are non-compliant to the actually mildest actually possible. Unlike other countries have not stated anything. They didn't. They agreed to that and all. Whereas Chinese have actually brought it up to that scale and all, and then it came to the actually commissioners also in that meeting and all that. I don't know after that, what exactly has happened, and I was not there throughout. So there is also something called as a actually multilateral agreement, as well as there is also something called as I think in individual countries actually dominating and trying to actually push their presence, as well as their presence being felt also. They do not want to agree that they have been at fault. I would like to say in quote and unquote. Thank you. And as you know that the permanent members are there. There are 24 members. There are only few states that do not do the fishing activities. Out of the highest fishing activities done is actually 52% of the krill exploitation is done by actually Soviet Union or present actually Russian Federation. That is 52% they are doing. And the second is of course Norway. That is about 6%. Others are all actually less than 6%. I think quickly have this as you know that actually we also have other actually conventions that is related with the whaling and seals and all. They are a bit subdued and all compared to the sustainable. Although actually I would like to say as a scientist and all, we use certain words called conservation, but under the conservation, having it in quotes, we are actually going for exploitation. So these are two actually anti to each other, and our conservation and exploitation don't go together. That is where the hypocrisy or the diplomacy and actually the modesty of the countries have been involved here. Of course, as Dr. Luther said, and all, I'm not a diplomat, I'm not a geopolitician, but I had an opportunity to actually rub my shoulders with diplomats, the UN and all this. But I see that actually this is something strange. Whether ever, in fact, as addressed by Dr. Sanjay Chaturvedi, whether ever we would like to be completely honest and ensure our I think the climate change, the planet Earth, in terms of I think an overexploitation or otherwise can be achieved. And finally, actually the kind of species in which presently they are interested are stated here. Actually, we have got an ice fish and a toothed fish and actually Patagonian fish. These are also gaining an important, but krill has been the actually as such an important source for which everybody is hunting. And I think it is not required all this year as we have actually short of time. I think in short, I would like to jump in here is that as far as Indian sector of this Southern Ocean is concerned, unexplored, we don't have a data after 1996. Most of the activity goes on actually in the Southern Ocean, Atlantic sector and all. All the people are fishing in the same pond. They say that even in CCAMLR there is a greater expectation from India. At least some exploratory cruises from our side, one or two, would add to the information. There is a huge information gap. We still do not know how much of a resource is available in the Indian Ocean sector of the Southern Ocean. As you all know, it was SaGHAA at Sampada it has gone, and that was not a purely an exploratory cruise. It was only one haul has brought us about 6 tons, and all. In that 6 tons has helped us so much, and all the institutes that was in the South India is involved, and they have brought out the products and all. So I think it is high time, sir. I want to submit here is that India has already come out with its interest clearly in terms of governance and all this thing, that we should go for the krill exploitation or otherwise to add to the information required. And it also, I think, throws a great opportunity with countries like Norway and all, actually, with whom we already have an established umbrella agreement or understanding as far as Arctic is concerned. I think similar such thing, I think, if we can, I think, have it extended to us even in the Southern Ocean, because they are expected to be there. They have actually green exploitation technologies, etc. Thank you so much.